sobering, and no news service in the United States of America is going to tell you today what we're telling you. I don't know if they'll ever tell you.
Until it's too late.
Yeah, they just want you to sleepwalk into this thing so that you're dependent on the deep state for everything that you need. They don't want the public to be aware. They want you to be distracted, thinking about things that really don't matter. So we'll start with the first one from Novosti News Service in Russia. Nord Stream will stop. It will stop sending gas to Europe from the morning of August 31st, that's tomorrow, to the morning of September 3rd. Now, most people believe it will never come back on. This is the remaining 20% of its capacity. Russia has already cut off 80% of its gas supply to Europe. The Russians are doing a maintenance break for the next 3 or 4 days. That's what they're calling it. Most people think that it is the ending, the conclusion of Russia sending gas to Europe. So, Doc, this is a big deal. I would be totally surprised if the gas comes back on August 4th.
And if it does come back
September 4th.
If it does come back on, maybe it'll be just a trickle down to 10% then. Just enough to say we're fulfilling our obligation to continue pumping or to keep the machinery running, whatever it might be. But even at the 20%, it's not enough to supply Europe. And so,
not at all. Well, another big decision today, this is Interfax in Russia. Gazprom, that's the big energy company of Russia, suspends supplies to France. So the Russians cut off France today.
Right.
That's not just a 3-day suspension.
No, they're out.
They're out.
Now, before you get too critical of Russia over this, listen to why they cut it off. Gazprom has suspended gas supplies to France due to non-payment for July deliveries in full. According to Gazprom's statement, as of the end of the business day of August 30th, Gazprom Export LLC had not received payments in full for the gas supplied to France in July under existing contracts.
Because the Western nations have put sanctions.
That's right.
On Russia and
transact in rubles anymore.
Well, the Western sanctions prohibit the Russians from doing transactions in dollars.
Right.
So the Russians said, okay, fine. When you buy our gas and our oil, you pay in rubles. And the Western countries said, no, we're not going to do it like that. And Russia said, well, we'll see. So France did not make their July payment.
Right.
And today the Russians said,
all right, bills due.
Your bills due, and you have no gas starting tomorrow.
So in accordance with the decree of the President of the Russian Federation back on March 31st, on a special procedure for the fulfillment by foreign buyers of obligations to Russian suppliers of natural gas, further supply of natural gas to a foreign buyer is prohibited if the payment was not made by the buyer in full within the contractual payment deadline. Now, in this regard, Gazprom Export notified France of a complete suspension of gas supply starting from September 1st until the moment when funds for the supplied gas are paid in full. So that's as of Thursday of this week.
The thing about it, Doc, that date, March 31st, we reported this story in March, that Vladimir Putin had signed that executive order.
Right.
So here we are now in late August, and we're now seeing the reality of the presidential decree. Because back in March we wondered, will the NATO nations, will they go all the way? Will we go up to September? And they're going to be staring Putin in the face saying, we'll see who blinks first.
Well, here it is.
He didn't blink.
Right, here it is. September, it's 2 days away now.
They thought he would blink. They thought he would fold. He didn't fold. He turned the valve. There's no gas coming to Paris tomorrow.
Now notice, Russia could have shut off the gas at any point in the past. They kept their end of the bargain. They kept putting gas to France.
But France didn't keep the bargain.
That's right. France broke the agreement. And when you break it's like, well, if you don't pay your gas bill, what happens? They come and shut off the gas at your place. And that's exactly what's happened to France with Russian gas.
Well, Doc, I've got a report we translated from French into English from BFM TV in France. Gazprom will completely suspend its deliveries to Engie. This is the French energy company, starting Thursday.
Now, from that article here, we have several quotes. French President Emmanuel Macron must meet this Friday with a defense council devoted to the supply of gas and electricity to France. Elizabeth Borne, the prime minister on Monday, called on companies to sobriety to avoid rationing.
All right, let's just hold this for a second. The French President Macron is calling a meeting this Friday with his military advisors.
Right.
Do you get this, folks? I want you to understand this. He's meeting with his military advisors on Friday about the cutoff of gas.
Right. It'd be equivalent here in the U.S. to having a meeting with the Homeland Security
the Pentagon
and the Pentagon over gas infrastructure here in the U.S.
Yes. And then also the Prime Minister said, I want everyone to be sober about this. We want to avoid rationing. Well, how are you going to avoid rationing when you have eventually there'll be nothing to ration? I mean, think about it, Doc. There's coming a time very soon that the government of France won't have anything to ration. The supplies will just run out. They can talk about rationing all they want, but when there's no more gas coming through the pipeline, there is a day somewhere out there, either this year or early 23, where there's no gas.
Right.
And all of France shivers. And who are they going to turn on? Macron.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a wild, turbulent fall and winter. Get ready for it.
Well, BFM further highlighted this. Elizabeth Borne announced that there would certainly be increases in the price of electricity and gas at the beginning of 2023. As a guest of TMC, one of the channels in France, Elizabeth Borne announced that there will certainly be increases. We're not going to freeze prices forever, added the Prime Minister. Well, I thought that was a unique turn of phrase. They may not freeze prices, but they might freeze people. Goes on to say households will not be affected by any gas cuts, assured Elizabeth Borne. Borne said on Tuesday that any gas cuts in the event of a shortage of this source of energy would not concern households but businesses, which are the biggest consumers. The cuts, they do not concern households. We're not going to cut the gas in French households, but it's on our companies, the large consumers, that there could be cuts. And that was affirmed by the Prime Minister on TMC.
Okay, so the French employees will be sent home.
Right.
The factories will be cold. The employees will be laid off and sent home.
Offices will be closed. Government complexes will be closed. Schools will be closed. Yes.
It's the next lockdown.
It's climate lockdowns. That's exactly what it is. So
they're going to lock down. At least they're going to lock down Europe. I don't know if they're going to bring it to the United States. The only way I can see it happening here is that Biden nationalizes the energy supplies of the United States under a wartime emergency power.
Which he very well could do.
And then begin shipping American gas, and we're talking LNG gas, natural gas, shipping it to Europe. That's a possibility. We still have a great supply here in the United States, but we could find the price of gas so expensive that the average American won't be able to afford it.
Right. Because we're shipping it to Europe.
Yes.
So, Interfax had this story where the French government is saying that, don't worry, folks, we've got enough gas for a normal winter, an ordinary winter. Well, it might not be an ordinary winter this winter.